Hey, this is Jason Forrest. Today we're going to talk about step 2, which is leading the buyer to their worst possible outcome. All right, remember the story, The Christmas Carol, where the ghost of Christmas future shows Scrooge a vision of his unmourned death in the near future, as well as the death of Tiny Tim, so that Scrooge can see the path he's on if he doesn't take massive action and make a decision to change his future. This is what you're going to learn in step 2 when you lead your buyer to their worst possible outcome. And by executing this step, you're saving your prospect from their future pain. I want to make this point here, that you are not manipulating them into feeling so bad that they buy from you. What you are doing is showing them that if they aren't moving forward now, that things won't get better or easier. Even if at the beginning of the conversation, they don't know what kind of pain they're in, you're helping them realize that they need to make a change now before it does get to that level. You're showing them that you're looking out for them so they don't have to experience the worst possible outcome. And you're showing them that you are the solution to their pain, that you are the vessel towards their life improvement, just like the ghost did with Scrooge. Your prospects are going through this journey with or without you. So you're giving them one moment to feel that outcome so they don't have to live it later. You're serving them by helping them see the future. The greatest warriors are always leading, protecting, and serving. You're leading the prospect away from pain and to a place they would not go to on their own. You're protecting them from manipulation by other salespeople or from that absentee buyer that may influence them. See, sales warriors are protecting prospects from these people because of the uncertainty in the world, and you're serving them by helping your prospects discover their outcome frame. Why do they really need this? And what's the consequence of not following through? Your job is to guide them, to help them the majority of their life, to lead them to life improvement for the long run, not just for a moment. So by leading the buyer to experience that worst possible outcome just for a moment, helps them realize that their decision to buy from you today is better for long-term life improvement. This goes back to your higher purpose as a sales warrior. You have to choose to lead, serve, and protect your prospects. The process you're learning in this lesson is all about helping your prospects discover their outcome frame. Why do they really need this? And what's the consequence of not following through? So up to this point, you've learned the power of the phrase, "Tell me how you're feeling about blank." And you know that each prospect will give you one of 4 responses in the buyer's emotional journey. Remember, the buyer's emotional journey is a process that your prospect needs to experience in order to get to their buying state, the desired emotional state. You will hear one of 4 responses, but you need to lead them to the 4th response, the worst possible outcome. And here's why. If a prospect comes to you for your product or service and their experience so far has only been okay, do you really think in an hour when you charge them 20 to 50% more than your competition, do you really think they're going to choose you if all they're dealing with is okay? See, selling is about getting the customer to buy sooner and for more money than they planned on. So you need them to be in a mindset that's open to that. Here's an example. If I'm selling FPG training to someone and I ask them, "Hey, I'm curious, how are you feeling about your current situation right now?" And they say, "It's okay, it's fine, I'm not sure." I can't work with that. I can't convince them to buy my training based off of okay or fine. Our training programs require dedication, as you know, and because they require so much effort and focus, I don't want to work with lukewarm teams. I will not sell our program to people who only feel okay or fine about their current sales process, because they need to be emotionally aware of the pain they're currently in, that they see the value in working with us. So what is the emotion that your prospect needs to be at that makes it worth the 20 to 50% more that you charge than your competition? See, the more you charge, the more pain they have to be in so that they can see the full value of what you're offering. Because it's not just about the financial cost, it's about the emotional cost. It's about the time and energy that goes into making that change or that big purchase. Sometimes as sales warriors, we forget what's going on for our prospects behind closed doors. We don't see the emotional, taxing decision-making process, the paperwork, the headaches, the conversations behind our back. So you need your prospect to realize that what you're offering them is worth it and is saving them from their emotional pain. The decisions people make are largely based on how people feel. And sales warriors can capitalize on that by communicating a feeling and removing emphasis on the cold, hard facts. You need to appeal to the human, not to the buyer. When you first engage with your prospect and ask them to tell you how they're feeling about their current situation, they're going to give you one of 4 responses. Your goal is to lead them to the worst possible outcome. Remember, it's about showing your prospect what's going to happen if they don't choose to go with your product or service right now. It's about seeing their fears, frustrations, and failures at a deeper level and showing them that you're the ticket towards life improvement. When you first engage with a prospect who's already presenting their worst possible outcome and their worst possible emotion, you don't need to make them feel even worse. If they're coming to you saying, it's been awful, it's a disaster, I'm miserable, I'm crushed, look, that's enough. They already are clearly in a lot of pain, and you can help them move forward. You can remove that pain. You don't want to lead your prospect to the worst possible outcome when they are already fully aware and experiencing their worst possible outcome. You're only using this step for the false positives, non-emotion responses, and the weak emotion responses. But here is the most important note about this. You do not want to skip ahead in the journey. You're going to move them through the emotional journey one step at a time. You want to match, pace, and lead. You need to follow the order of their journey so that if they're presenting a false positive emotion, you're not going to jump straight into leading them to the worst possible outcome. You need to get them to a non-emotion and then a weak emotion and then get them to a worst possible emotion by leading them to the worst possible outcome. This is what this process looks and sounds like in action. So let's say I'm having the first conversation with my prospect and I say, tell me how you're feeling about blank. My prospect then gives me a false positive emotion and says, it's great actually, it's been good. I know this is a false positive because again, they wouldn't be talking to me at that moment, their problem would have already been solved. So I'm going to match, pace, and lead them to the next phase in the buyer's emotional journey. I'm going to say to them, so it sounds like your experience is great so far. That's awesome, but I'm curious, if it were really going great, then you probably would have solved this problem already and you wouldn't be talking to me right now. Is that correct? So I want to ask you, is it really going great? Or is it maybe just going fine right now? You guess it's just going fine right now? Okay, well, tell me more about that. You see how I just installed a non-emotion there? I gave them a double bind of non-emotions so that they could tell me, you know what? It actually might not be great. I would agree it's just going fine. So now I'm moving them from a false positive to a non-emotion. I want them to elaborate on that non-emotion and I say, tell me more about why it's just going fine for you right now. So then my prospect says something like, well, I like what we've been seeing so far and exploring the options has been great, but I guess I just haven't found a solution that I'm certain about yet. I've done a lot of researching, but I'm not set on anything yet. So now I'm going to take that response they just gave me and give them another emotional double bind and going to that next phase in the buyer's emotional journey by installing weak emotions this time. So I say, yeah, I get that. There's a lot of information out there which can be super helpful and exciting to explore, but it's hard to decide on because you want to make sure you can be certain you're going with the right choice for you. I've been there. It sounds like you've spent a lot of time and energy thinking about this, and I know that if I were you, I might feel annoyed or frustrated that it's so hard to just get what I want. Would you agree? Oh, you agree that you feel frustrated that you haven't found what you want yet? Got it. See, now I'm in a better position to lead them to the worst possible emotion and give them awareness of the worst possible outcome, which is what's going to happen if they continue on the path they're on. So I'm going to use that emotional double bind one more time with the worst possible emotion. I'm going to say to my prospect, I think it's so awesome that you've been doing a ton of research trying to find the right solution for you. But you're right, that lack of certainty can be extremely frustrating. I'd be frustrated too. And if I were in your shoes and I continue down the path that you're on right now for the next few weeks or months, that frustration would lead me to feeling super overwhelmed, or maybe even hopeless. How about you? If we don't figure this out together, is that how you might be feeling too? You'd feel hopeless? Now you've just installed a more serious emotion for them. If they feel frustrated, you want them to see that it's going to grow into despair. If they feel annoyed, you want them to see that it's going to grow into rage. You're leading the prospect by installing a more serious emotion for them. You have to get them to agree that how they're feeling today is blank, and then amplify that worst case scenario of, if it stays like this, it will be worse than blank. It will be detrimental. A leash you may have right now is that you don't want your prospect to feel worse. You're there to make them feel better, right? But this process is building that necessary emotional rapport so that you can lead them to the life they truly want to have. You can be the solution. See, the most important thing in selling is, do you have position of strength? How fast can you get it, and can you sustain it? By leading your prospect to the worst possible outcome, you're utilizing your prospect's emotions as your position of strength throughout the sale. You already know that every single purchase is influenced by emotions. So when you can get into that deeper level of emotional rapport with your prospect, you're giving them a gift that no other competitor can. They might not completely remember what you said or the solutions you gave them, but they will always remember how you made them feel. All right, sales warriors, let me share with you where this step fits into your 5-4-3. This step is an extension of your summary vision close. The reason why you truly want it is blank, but you're starting to get a little frustrated with how hard it is for you to accomplish blank. Tell me about that frustration if you continue to not get what you're looking for. Remember, you're going to learn about how all of this fits together, but just in case you're having a hard time seeing how it all flows together, I'm going to give you a preview of what this looks like. I was selling our recruiting services to a CRM provider. I said, I know you told me you've been disappointed with other recruiting companies and the talent that's out there. If you don't find your ultimate sales warrior, then I'm curious, how is that going to affect your goals over next year? He said, if we don't get it right, it will put me 6 months behind next year. So I said, wow. So if you end up being 6 months behind, how is that going to make you feel? Oh, I'm gonna get so disappointed. Yeah, I can imagine that you're going to be pretty disappointed, and after all the work you've been putting in, you're probably going to feel super overwhelmed or maybe even anxious. Is that right? Then he said, yeah, I would definitely be very overwhelmed and honestly really angry because my board will be very upset with me that we're not on track. So next, I had to let him know that this sounded like a big deal. When we talked about how FPG can solve this problem for his company and for him and make sure that he never had to get to that point of anger, and that his board of directors will be proud of him and what he was trying to accomplish for his company and for his team. I finished by asking him, so tell me, instead of feeling angry, how do you want to feel instead about working with a recruiting company? He told me that he wanted to feel certain that we could really pull it off. So listen to the structure of the next question I asked him. Great. So if you feel certain about it, then tell me how that's going to make you feel about your future. And now I was at the answer I wanted. He told me that he would feel accomplished and excited. And then I finished by summarizing the steps to move forward to take him from his worst possible emotional state to his desired emotional state. It sounded like, all right, so let's do A, B, and C today so we can give you more certainty so that you don't have to feel angry, and you can go back to your board today feeling accomplished and excited. Look, don't worry, you're not leaving your prospect in a state of pain and hoping they buy from you after that. There's more steps from there. After you led them to the worst possible outcome, you're going to move forward with them, showing them that there's a solution to their pain. And you'll learn how to do this in the next lessons. But for this week's lesson, you're going to just be practicing this step of moving them through the buyer's emotional journey and leading them to the worst possible outcome. You're going to build muscle memory so you're able to label the emotional state they give you. Work them through the buyer's emotional journey using emotional double binds and lead them to the worst possible outcome. Check your lesson guide for this week's assignment and get ready to be unleashed, and more importantly, get ready to improve customers' lives and increase your conversion rate. One more thing. I think you all should go and watch The Christmas Carol. I think you should, through this new set of eyes, watch what happened when the ghost of Christmas future worked with Scrooge. He was on a really bad life path, but because of the ghost of Christmas future showing him the worst possible outcome of the choices he was making and where he was going to end up, it changed his entire life. And that, warriors, is exactly what you are doing through this course. So again, embrace that new reality, focus on leading, protecting, and serving your customers, and be ready to be unleashed. This is Jason Forrest. Push yourself to become a better version of you.